Major medical debt and terminal burdens. Euthanasia is the process of a painful death of a patient suffering from a terminal illness. Being interested in the medical field and various aspects of it, I see the need for this process. With euthanasia or anything based around death, ethics always get involved. On either side, there can be the patient suffering, the need for space, or even the family's perspective. Some patients suffer at death's grip while others feel nothing at all. If you are suffering with a terminal illness and have the ability to end it, why sit and allow the duration of that suffering to increase? When an animal gets sick or even too violent, we put it down, but you never think of putting a person down because they're sick. For a lot of pet owners, instead of paying for piles of medical bills, we put animals down. Again, with people, families rather fall into debt than watch their loved ones go. However, putting an animal down is just like putting a person down. However, saying putting an animal down is just like putting a person down would be wrong. You can have a pet put down almost anywhere. In some places, it's even okay to put an animal down yourself. Even though it is still a growing concept, euthanasia is only legal in smaller places and is spreading to some European countries. When it comes to anything medical, it seems there is always a need for space or materials. A lot of hospitals just do not have the room to hold as many patients as there are, and there are always waiting lists that seemingly have no end, keeping people in hospitals. Waiting lists for organs or surgeries come up a lot. Sitting in a hospital room, knowing those lists are miles long and will not help at all, is truly suffering. I have heard stories of people who were on waiting lists for a hospice, and since they were patients that would allow for vacant rooms by 11:59, they were able to get a spot at said hospice. Families watch their loved ones suffer through degrading illnesses. Their lives are put on hold, sitting there waiting for their loved one to pass on. It is painful to watch someone suffer, but it is also hard to let them go. However, letting go leads to the end of a patient's suffering. Families watch the suffering. Patients are the ones physically suffering. Families feel the emotional part. Patients feel that too. Even as the medical field continues to progress, many illnesses stand incurable. This either will force families to watch their loved ones just sit and suffer, or with euthanasia, that dreadful waiting period can be the transition for families to begin their grieving process. All in all, euthanasia is something we could see more of in the future. When people suffer, we let into other suffering on their behalf. When that suffering is affecting someone else in their family, with the patient's approval, why not let it at least their suffering and allow the family to begin to heal? With various patients considering the idea, it is something to think about, because who knows? One day it could be our parents. It could be us, our siblings, or even our kids.